Okay, so very briefly, this is the second session of the Health Tech vertical, again, given by Dr. Francois Fong, who is the CEO and founder of Neo Health Group in Hong Kong and has had great many years experience in the healthcare sector and related informatics and stuff like this. And the second session that we're covering tonight is a contrast between public and private healthcare. So I will hand the mic over to Francois right now and let him take over. Francois.
Okay, thanks, John. Let me just share my screen first. So welcome everyone. So today is our second sessions on the HealthTech vertical for Founder Institute. So last time we talked about the difficulties in going through the biotech path as a startup. Today we're going to share a little bit more about how to position yourself, whether in the private or in the public healthcare sector. So I think it's very important for founders to initially think about where their market is and how about going to get their market. So I always ask yourself, where is my cheese? It's dinner time, so I hope we're not too hungry right now. Now, last week we shared a little bit about the different type of healthcare funding, where's it coming from? So when we look at the different sectors, whether we are looking at the private households, like the patient, from the patient side, when they go through the healthcare system, oops, let's go back. Okay. When they go through the healthcare system, now whether they are paying themselves or whether they are paying through the government, in different countries, there's the state government, the federal government, they may share different healthcare budgets. And the employer may be buying private insurance, so the insurer are the payers. And then finally, going through the private healthcare providers, you need them to accept the product or services. And that's the difficult part. And last week, we talked about for the health product or services to go through regulatory approvals from different countries, different jurisdictions. And now after you got the approval, then what's next? Really, right at the beginning, you need to think about how to define your product or services. Now, I think everyone knows what this is. Anyone? Yep. It's a transformer, right? For a computer. So you break up a PC, you'll find this transformer inside. Now, I'll give you one example of what happens. So if you look at, you search for a computer transformer on Amazon, you can find many of the different types. This one, with different specs, it will cost about 25 US. However, a similar transformer, this is an exercise ECG machine. We had one in our clinic, and it's produced by General Electric. And one time we have a breakdown on this transformer, and it cost us 600 US to replace it. And it exactly looks the same as a normal PC transformer. And what makes it so different, really, is about the certification. It has got an FDA approval stamp on it. And that makes a 50 times difference in pricing. And that's why it's expensive and time consuming to go through the certification process. But eventually, the cost, the price that you can sell is much higher when you can classify it as a medical device compared to an ordinary computer transformer. going through the whole process to get the certification, as you heard last time, it takes time and it's expensive. So the development time is long, so you need to be very patient in getting through the development and wait for the regulatory approval. And do you have the money to burn? Do you have the funding to sustain? And then after you have the product, what is your sales channel? And then consider whether you have the brand to make it selling successfully. So apart from medical devices, you need to, depending on your company, whether you're selling your product as a therapeutics or selling as a food. For a product we sell as food, it requires a lot less clinical trial and a lot less regulatory approval. But for therapeutics, as we saw last time, it takes sometimes over 10 years to go through all the different phases of clinical trial. So right from the beginning, you need to consider the position of your services or product. And after you defined your service or product, you need to find your market. Now, nowadays, we talk about B2C, B2B. B2B may be defined into business to government or business to consumer. Or nowadays, with the online platform, more products are being sold from C to C, from consumer to consumer. So from KOL to consumer. So really you need to think about which is the best channel for your product. Now, what are the differences? B2B, business selling to a business. B2C, business selling to a consumer. Now, on the B2B side, you need to go through many decision makers, and often from the procurement staff to the department heads, or sometimes if it's a big purchase, then you might have to go through the CFO or sometimes even CEO. And there are layers and layers of decision makers. You need to go through all of them. And it's certainly a smaller pool of customers. Then the return is very important. Now, the return includes your time, your effort, the money you need to burn before you get all these approvals. And in sometimes you might need to spend a lot more time in relationship building, the lobbying to different levels of people. You might need to go through different business groups to know more people so that they can connect you to the right person. And it's a lot more complicated. And all these decisions usually comes a very rational, collective, and require a lot more detailed contents, which I'll show you a little bit later on. Now, for B2C, we're selling to individual buyers, and there's a big pool of consumers. But different consumers, they may have different preferences or personal needs. So when you target your product, you need to target a selective group of people. When you have product or service that is good for everyone, then often you get no customers because it's not targeted enough. Now, ROI is not as important, but you still need to consider how much effort you need to put in marketing and how long is the return. Now, for individual customer, often the branding is very important. People recognize brands, and a lot of decision making is based on the brand. Now, how many people already use it, whether it is well known, and people copies other people. So the brand awareness is a key factor in B2C business. And quite often the content, it needs to be short and punchy. like a 10-second advertisement, a short video clip people may see on YouTube nowadays from a KOL. And buyers' behavior are often a lot more emotional driven rather than based on factual informations. So the marketing strategy for business, it needs to be a lot more informative, tailored to a small audience. And they are often very specific. And sometimes you utilize direct email marketing, retargeting, relationship building from a small group of people. And B2C, for the advertisement, the content needs to be entertaining to catch your audience and targeting a larger audience. And quite often nowadays, utilizing social medias like Facebook, YouTube, IG, TikTok, and it's quite a different business model. Now, this is actually one of our B2B tender application from the government, so the hospital authority. And this is a tender process for a drug that will be used in the hospital authority. Now, to go through the process, this is the final submission that we made. And as you can see down the bottom, the tender document is 115 pages. It took us about a month to get it processed, completed. Now, and to go through the process on the right, first, we need to register to the government procuring system electronically. And they need to assess our company to see whether the company is suitable for the tender process. And once you are registered on the system, it doesn't mean that you will get the tender. The tender is by invitations. So whether it's from the hospital or a department or a business unit from the government, it's tender by invitation. So they will send to us an invitation, the requirement that they need before we submit our tender. And then for the document, we need to fill in the whole documents. And after filling in the documents, then it's the waiting time. Now for this tender process, it took us 6 months for the first tender and closing day. And after the first closing day, we received an email and it told us that there's an extension of the tender for another 6 months. Fortunately, we don't have to repeat the documents. But then after, and you can see the closing day on this is October 2022. And we received another extension about a month ago that it will be extended to October this year. So there's a lot of uncertainty in this kind of tender. You can spend a lot of time, a lot of efforts, but you are in much lesser control of the process. So really is something that you need to consider, whether this is something that you will do as the main part of your business or alongside with selling to consumers. So getting the tender, the margin may be low, you get bigger volumes, but a lot of uncertainties. Now for B2C directly, your product is a consumer product. It may be food or supplement. It may be a home test kit. It may be an ad. But very important, like I say, the branding is very important. Branding, branding, and branding. And what about branding? Now, these two common products that we see on the internet, and some you can, the one on the left, you can see in many of the pharmacies. Now, the two arrow, one it says a microbial immunity product developed by the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And it's a patent technology from Italy. Now, this kind of branding, you need to associate your product with a well-known brand. If your product is new, more so you need to associate with something that's recognizable by other people. Rarely people will try something they don't know, something they haven't heard of, a brand that's unknown to them. So attaching to a university, having some clinical trial done by a university would provide more credibility to your service or product. And if it's a patent product, it creates a uniqueness of your product. And this is a probiotics product, which nowadays you can see a lot of advertisement being done on television, social media, and so on. Now, on the left, you can just see this circle, USP. USP stands for US Pharmapedia. It's a pharmaceutical. It's not only for pharmaceuticals, but it has a lot of health products also included in this, like an encyclopedia that covers pharmaceutical drugs as well as supplements and herbal supplements as well. So being able to list on this USP is an accreditation process. So not every product will be listed on USP. So it guarantees is being manufactured and the quality by a GMP manufacturing site, and the quality is well assured. So next time when you go to a healthcare shop, you can check the different products and see if they have this USP verified stamp on it. And there's other certifications like the NSF, which is a US National Service Foundation certifications for the manufacturing site. That's the CGMP certificate. It certifies the product being produced from a good manufacturing practice locations. And the guideline for GMP standard is regulated by the FDA. Now, then a different model for B to B to C. So for example, prescription medication, some laboratory tests, some medical device, they are required to be prescribed by a professional. So there are also other medications who, if it's been not used for a long time, is proven to be safe, then it may become an OTC product, an over-the-counter product, so consumer can buy it directly. So for medicine, which potentially have got a toxic effect with potential side effects, then it will fall into the prescription medications. Now, same with some laboratory tests. Now, with a lot of rapid tests, now the consumer can buy over the counter from a pharmacy, from supermarkets. They can do the test by themselves. In the past, for example, HIV test was not allowed to be sold in pharmacies because the worry is for people who test positive without any counseling, without any supervision, some people may commit suicide because they are too scared of the result. And test kits may have a false positive or false negative implications. So without proper guidance, people may misinterpret their results. So that's why a lot of the medical tests, diagnostic tests, is still provided by medical practitioners. So the doctor needs to sign in a form to request the test being done. So the patients understand the implications of the test result. Now, whether it's the positive result or negative result is very important. Now, for example, with a cancer marker test, there's a range of false positive results. So it doesn't necessarily mean the person have cancer if the cancer marker is positive. There's a wide range of positive results. So a low positive versus a high positive could imply very different results. And also different ethnic group may have different result range as well. And different geographic location may also have a different standards. So those are all very important factors needs to be determined by healthcare professionals. And medical devices. Now, quite often nowadays, with consumable devices like a blood pressure machine, people can do at home. Like an oximeter, people can measure their oxygen level at home. Those are home devices. But for other devices, people maybe need to be prescribed by a medical practitioner. For example, with continuous blood sugar level monitoring. So people have a marker attached to their skin, and that constantly measure their blood sugar level. So those devices are now still need to be prescribed by medical practitioners. And other similar products like a CPAP machine, a continuous positive airway device for people with sleep apnea. The machine still needs a doctor's approval for patients to use it. So patient cannot just go to a device store and say, oh, I want a machine for my sleep apnea, because they cannot determine, the person who sells it cannot determine whether the patient actually has sleep apnea. So they need a defined diagnosis from a doctor to say this person actually need one. So in order for your product to be sold or being recognized and accepted by health professional, it requires a lot of things that we mentioned last time. Regulatory approval, professional bodies' recommendations, being set in certain guidelines that how practitioners should use them and under what circumstances. So I can show you some examples. Now, this is a marketing material provided to doctors on a vaccine. The vaccine is called Shingrix. So it's a vaccine for herpes zoster, a skin condition, so reactivation of herpes virus from chickenpox. Now, this is the front page on the left. What catches your eyes most? For those of you who see this on the corner, the right corner, upper corner, it's CDC recommendation. Anyone know what CDC stands for? During COVID, you probably everyone have heard it. It's Center of Disease Control. So US authorities in disease control. So that's a very important recognition. So if something that's recommended by CDC is approved or recognized by a whole panel of specialists in the area, so many people have already endorsed it. So for the general doctors in the community, they will recognize this being approved by the experts. So there's much less question being asked about the safety, about the effectiveness on this product. So whatever being told by the drug company quite often will be taken directly by the health professionals. And then on the right-hand side, oops, now we can see down the bottom, it says that's over 90% efficacy. So the effectiveness is over 90%. And for health professionals, one very major concern is whether the treatment is to cause any side effects. Now, the effectiveness comes second. Any serious adverse event is more important. Now, if something doesn't work, it doesn't really matter as much. If something that's going to cause more side effects. First, do no harm, as the Hippocrates oath for all health professionals would endorse. So any drug with potential serious adverse effect, no matter how good it is not going to sustain in the healthcare market. In the past, we've seen many very good drugs being withdrawn, not because they are not effective, but because they have serious side effects. And then on the right-hand side, we see approved by FDA in US, EMA in EU. Now this again, very important certification for doctors to recognize its safety and its effectiveness. So basically, now if any pharmaceutical product without any of this kind of recommendations, it's very, very difficult to sell to doctors. It will not be accepted by the medical professions. Now, there's a lot of information here, but I want you to just focus on a few things. Now, this is a marketing material for a drug, Crestor, you can see on the left corner, upper corner, which is a medication to control cholesterol, and also for Forxica, which is a diabetic medication to lower diabetes, lower blood sugar levels. Now, all these figures on the right-hand side, they're different graphs. It shows the efficacy. Now, the content is not so important, but doctors require data. So doctors look at a clinical trial result, its effect. So having clinical trial is very important, not only to prove the drug works, but also to have result to demonstrate whether it's better than other drugs currently on the market and how much better, and its effect on different conditions. So for example, with the drug, the chart on the top, it looks at how much reduction it gets for the LDL cholesterol. Now, not knowing the cholesterol is important, but it does not necessarily means anything. Just lowering the cholesterol, so what? The second chart, it looks at the reduction in disease endpoints. So for MI, for myocardial infarction, it reduced by 35%, stroke reduced by 30%, coronary revascularization, that means reblockage of the heart blood vessels after people having a balloon angioplasty, and then congenital heart disease by 26%. These are disease endpoints, so which are more significant to doctors. Rather than just lowering the numbers, what benefit do patients get? Now, this chart, just enlargement. What I want to show is the bottom line here. It actually have these small prints on the study design. Now, how to design a clinical trial is also important. Now, in terms of the number of people involved, the number of patients involved. For example, this is from the Voyager database. It combined 37 clinical studies together. So with 32,000 patients in all these clinical trials. Now, this is what we call a major clinical trials. So combining all this data with analysis to give the result, it shows a lot more significant power to show the result is genuine, and also is not just a one-time single study result. Now, this again extracted from part of the marketing material. So on top, you see 2019 ESC/EASD guideline on diabetes, prediabetes, and cardiovascular disease recommendations. Now, what does all this stand for? ESC is the European Society of Cardiology. EASD is the European Association of the Study of Diabetes. Then at that further down, we see 2023 ADA standards of medical care in diabetes recommendations. Now, the ADA is the American Diabetes Associations. Now, all these associations, they provide clinical guidelines. So which doctors follows. So basically, if the drugs or pharmaceutical product, whether medical device is recommended by all these guidelines, then people buying to doctors, professionals buying to follow the guidelines. Now, all this small print, I don't expect you to read this, but now with all those studies we showed before, with all those charts, on the top are the references. They're all published papers in major medical journals. So having the result be published in major journals like the New England Medical Journals, Medical Heart Association journals, they are authoritative, peer-reviewed journals. So there are other experts in the field have looked at the study and saying that this is a true reading result to be accredited is also very important. Now we just talk about CPAP machine. So this is another marketing material provided by a reseller of a CPAP machine. So on the right, it says they are approved by the Department of Health as importer of medical devices. Now, even you may not be the manufacturing for the product, having a government recognized certificate is important to show your credibility. So by all means, try to get something like that. This is actually much easier to get compared to completing a clinical trial. Now, next I'm going to show you something. Now, this is a company which I come across about a week ago. They show me their products and asked me to collaborate with them and to give it to my patients to try. Now, you can put your comments on this on the chat in the chat box after you see. I'm just going to show some information about this product. Now, this is the brand with a registered name, and the product is a probiotic product. Some of you may not be Chinese, but just explain to you, it's a personal care probiotic product.
I hate to admit that some of us may not know what probiotics means either.
And that's good. That's okay. So probiotics are good bacteria. Basically, try to rebalance the body
Okay.
with the bad bacteria. So its function, this personal care product is you mix it with water, and then it will help to remove the bad bacteria on the person, as well as you can use as a cleaning products. So unlike using disinfectants, so claiming to be more environmentally friendly, less harmful, and more efficient. Okay, let's go for next. Yep, I don't see any technical approvals, endorsement, lacking professional endorsements. Well, that's what they're trying to ask me to do for them. Double as furniture cleaner, yes. Actually, when the person demonstrated the product to me, She said the yellow one is for personal use and the green one's for the domestic helper to use for cleaning. And the product is exactly the same. Okay, you read all this. Let's go next. Next page. Oh, get stuck here. Oh, okay. Yep. Actually, I don't understand how you can actually steam and put the probiotic in steam because it killed the probiotics. Really doesn't make sense. Now, this bit. Now, just something simple. Think about what's wrong, do you think, about branding? Anyone? You get high distinction if you get this right. See what's people asking. Cleaning is not medical activity. Too broad access of usage. Yes. Now this page. See if you can notice something. The website and the company name. Oops. Oops. What happened? Can you still hear to see the screen?
Resume slideshow button at the top. I see.
Yep, I have. Get back again. Okay.
Here we are.
Yep. Explanation is very
What was the
confusing.
name? What was the name on the previous slide of the company?
Now you can see on the QR code.
Oh, inconsistency between the name and the URL.
Yeah, if you type iBeauty, actually you find many different companies. So it took me a while to actually try to get on their website.
Mm.
Okay, now let's see. Yeah, I think many of you get the idea. Now the product itself, it doesn't have any endorsement. Now it says, you see Super Lab there, and Super Lab is actually a Taiwanese third-party laboratory doing testing. So when I actually went up to their website and looked at what they call certificates, and some of the certificate had test result based on one sample. They sent them one packet of the probiotics and they did a test on the sample, now, which is absolutely ridiculous and doesn't reflect anything. And the claims, now you can claim anything, but you need to have proof. So for doctor to able to actually recommend patient to use it, you need to have proof. You can't just say what the things does. Now for consumers, yes, if they're layman's, some people buy because of their friends are using it and they will follow. But to convince a professional, you need data, you need clinical trial results. So these are just useless. And even looking at the top line there, Valeria biotechnology external probiotics, 3 main indicator bacteria. Now these are bacteria. They're not bacteria. Yeast is not bacteria. Fungi is not bacteria. So technically they are wrong. Now looking at things like this, no, I'll just say, no, this is so unprofessional. You need to get your technical stuff right first to convince. I'll just have a laugh on this. And for the name, Bacteria, I search on Google and keep popping up with Deliveria. So the name itself on the direct search is not traceable. You actually need to click into Deliveria to actually get it. Now for any brand, if you make the name so complicated, so hard to pronounce, it's not going to be an easy brand for people to remember. So most often for brand like Nike, robot, editors, something easy, and NEC, Sony, short and simple, people can remember. And like what I said before, with the name, you need to use a consistent website in order people to find you. So, and then when I look at the website, now this is a verbatim copy from the website. This is introduction of the company. If you read it either in Chinese, in English, I say it's total nonsense. I asked them, where does the word restaurant coming from? You're not doing anything. So, and then after I told them, they changed the website straight away. But really, if you present to someone who's professional, you need to have something professional to show to people. That's your minimum standard. So like what we said before, there's no scientific data, no registrations, no endorsement, poor content, poor branding, the brand name, the website doesn't match, blah, blah, blah. So do not repeat this kind of mistake. Now, next, I'm going to go through a case study. Do you want to have a 5 minutes break? Yeah, let's have a couple of minutes break.
Let me see. There's just a few additional comments about the previous case study. I'm just surprised it said they started in 2012 and they're still in business.
Yep. And she told me their daily sales about 50 packages.
Okay.
And interesting, she kept telling me they find a lawyer to endorse their products. Their claims are legally correct. I say, you're selling a health product. No, what the lawyer say doesn't mean anything.
I'm just a little bit interested in how they actually save the probiotics when they can actually kill the bacteria. When the solution kills the bacteria and they save the probiotics.
Yeah, it's by competition. So the probiotics will increase in numbers and outpopulates the bad bacteria. Now that's the principle for probiotics. So for someone who, for example, get a diarrhea, so they may have bad bacteria in the stomach. So taking probiotics will replace those bad bacteria by good bacteria. However, on the testing sample, it will look at the reports. It said in 1 minute, the bad bacteria like E. coli was displaced. So 99.9% of it was killed. It's just, I cannot believe that. You need the insecticide to kill bacteria in 1 minute. So the probiotics just doesn't work like that. It takes time for it to replace the bad bacteria. So the result is just so unbelievable.
It is. And I thought back when probiotics live a little bit longer, they will start to have weird smells.
Mm.
And how do
Yeah,
you like eliminate the smells when it actually produce those? It's just, yeah, a little
exactly.
bit
So
confusing. Yeah.
I think the smell reduction is more from just the washing itself. But then again, that means you need to have a controlled trial to compare with just washing to see whether it works because of just the cleaning or whether it's because of the probiotics. So again, those are the common things that will involve in when you deal with something. Even a simple trial, you can wash this with water, then wash with this.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Let me just get a water. I'll be back.
Well, it was something different because in so many founders session, we give you case studies about how you do things. So now you've had a case study of how you do not do things.
Equally important.
I often give, well, I have not often, but I've given talks on mergers and acquisitions and private equity and venture capital on what not to do. It's much more entertaining.
Okay, now one thing I always tell my staff is that it's better you learn from someone else's mistake rather than learn from your own mistake. So after we've seen the bad example, let's see something that's good. Now, this is actually a company where I think it's done everything right and a product which potentially revolutionized some of the cardiology diagnostics. So this company is called AliveCourt. Now, two of their main products, as you can see on the left-hand side, that's not an Apple Watch. They actually came up with a ECG, a wearable ECG, before Apple Watch. And I'm going to show you the story. It's quite interesting. And what they have now is a portable product. On the right-hand side is a portable ECG machine. So patients can measure their ECG readings at home with a simple device. I actually have bought two of these. So it's something that's very handy, very useful. And let me tell you the story. Problem going down next page. Okay. Now, this is a story about a product going from medical device to consumer products. Like I said before, a medical device requires a lot more testing for it to be approved to be used. But sometimes the reverse happens. So when a product being used so widely, it then convert back into a consumer product. So I think all of us know what an ECG machine is. So it's a machine like on the left-hand side. So usually go to a hospital or go to a clinic and with a lot of wire being attached to the body on the chest. It measures the electrical currents through the heart. So it can measure the regularity of the heart rate. It can also potentially show different ECG pattern indicating whether a person having a heart attack or other heart conditions. So the device now we see and use from a live cord is a portable PET machine, like on the one on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side. Now, this was the first publication. It was back in 2012 in March. So it's the first wireless smartphone electrocardiogram demonstrates success in monitoring patients' health. Now, the inventor is Dr. Albert. In the first publication, it was in a poster presentation in a conference in American College of Cardiology. So again, very reputable, very international conference for cardiology. So the presentation itself was in a place where it is very reputable. Now, what he said was, the implication of this technology for improving public awareness of health metrics and for early diagnosis of arrhythmia, means abnormal heart rhythms, is can be beneficial for the users, the physicians, their patients, and also for the payers. So looking after 3 different market segments in here. Current monitoring system for diagnosing arrhythmia are cumbersome. So that's the pain point. Result are in an inefficient use of the healthcare system. It takes much longer time to generate an ECG. The person needs to unclothe, they need to go to the facility, the person needs to stick all the stickers on, and there are 12 stickers on. Usually it takes at least 20 minutes to complete one ECG. And is subject to inaccuracy because of lack of patient compliance and fail to reach many patients. There's the delivery of healthcare to the patients at the right time. So in a very simple, very short paragraph, it mentioned a few things that's very important, like a 20-second pitch to an investor. It's got the pain point, it's got the solutions, it's got its target audience already, all in a few slides. So this is actually on the news press release on the website, which I just copied and downloaded. So you can see how a person can, in a few sentences, describe his company, his product, and what it does, what's its benefits, in very concise manner. I think that's the key point in this message. And so they had the vision already, and it's the story how they put it into action. Then on the same event, another cardiologist gave this comment. The study provides us with important information required to optimize the care, the physicians and patients' applications. And it's the, oh, I need to move the graph here. And it's about the clinical quality and low cost of heart monitoring, and it's got a global availability. Now, from a user point of view, the cost is important. The clinical quality is another critical factor. Now, it's just low cost, but poor quality, that's not acceptable. So good quality at a much cheaper price, then you have a global presence of your product. Now, remember the time, the last slides, they say the timing, when was it? In March, when it's first published its data. In March. In June, it has a Series B, around $10 million. And at this point, it's pending for FDA approval. It's got a number of investors already in, and they're pending for FDA approval. So they're going through the process. You need some clinical data to justify your presence. And having it published in a reputable locations or setting. And then the next step is to get regulatory approval. Now, then next year, in November 2012, study point to mobile device as breakthrough for community screening and stroke prevention. So it's gone further to have more study done. A live cord heart monitor for iPhone now is starting to have something coming more. And it received FDA clearance. So after 1 year, about 1.5 years, it has got its FDA approval. Then after FDA approval, then what happened? So the mobile ECG device for heart rate monitoring now available by prescription. So after FDA approval, then you have the endorsement from FDA, then you can sell it to the physicians, the doctors who will prescribe it because they already had FDA approval. So now the device is on prescription. So you can actually, doctor write you a prescription, you can go to the pharmacy and buy one of this device, but it's still in a controlled manner. So people just can't just go and buy it off the counter like a toy. Now, what's next? So this is 2013, March. Next, 2014, about a year later, a live cord received FDA over-the-counter clearance for its heart monitoring. So after the government, the regulatory bodies see its safety, people not abusing it, then the restriction on prescription will be released. So people or patients can buy directly over the counter now. So it's gone from a medical device into the consumer market, which is a huge, much bigger market in comparison. Then what's next? New Cardiac brand banned for Apple Watch deliver medical grade electrocardiogram anytime, anywhere. And then it received FDA clearance for the first medical device accessory for Apple Watch. Now, this is the part you need to bear in mind. And then it'll come to next, when you're partnering with big players, things that you need to be very careful. And as a founder, you may have your patent ideas, but how to protect it become very, very important. And then, again, about branding. Olympic icon Mark Splits partners with Lyco and build awareness around heart health. So now we have a very well-known Olympian to be their KOL. Now that's a big thing. The brand awareness, because now you're going into a consumer market. Like what I said before, consumer market, you need to have some well-recognized brand or figure to backing you up. Otherwise, selling a new product on the market is very difficult. As I mentioned before, now they were partnering with Apple. And in 2021, a live cord filed ITC, International Trade Commission complaint seeking for bar US importation of Apple Watch. And ITC formally commenced investigation into Apple Watch infringement of a live cord patent. Now that's the problem when you play with big players. You need to be very careful how you protect yourself. And ITC, this is the year after, 2020, ITC administrative law judge found Apple infringe a live cord's patent technology. And then ITC rules Apple violates a live cord's patent. So if you have a very good product and service, somebody is going to copy you, whether they're a big company or small company. So you need to expect that. But also, it means your product is really good. Otherwise, people won't bother to copy you. And this is a copy, some of the information from their website. Very simple, very concise. On the first page, introducing the new product, the easiest way to acquire a 12-lead ECG. Their previous product is a 6-lead ECG. Normally, a full complete set of ECG has got 12 leads. Their first product is a 1-lead product, and they advanced to a 6-lead product, and the latest is a 12-lead product. And the next line they say is #1 doctor recommended personal ECG device. Something doctor recommend. There's over 200 clinical publications already. So more doctors are testing their products, more endorsement for it. And the more people, the more doctors who testing their product, the more likely they will recommend it to their patients. And there's over 3 million lifetime users in the country. I think there was in over 40 countries. So it's gaining international recognitions. And then it states the pain point. Heart disease is #1 cause of death in the United States. 80% of cases are preventable. Now you have a problem, but it needs to be preventable. If you have a problem that cannot be prevented, no matter what you do, then you're wasting your time. Prevention is better than cure. If you can prevent 80% of cardio death, you can imagine how many lives being saved. So it's not only about how many products you're selling and how much you're going to sell it, but how many lives you're going to save with your health device. So it states its pain point. And the next line is very simple. Our solution. If you're going to do a 5 minutes pitch, you probably, this doesn't even need 5 minutes. The pain point and what your solution is. The LifeCode was found on the strength of our proprietary technology, AI-enabled machine learning, empowered ECG sensor. So all very simple. Now, remember at the very beginning, we need to focus on our customers. And who are our customers? Now, for the LifeCode, they target different customers, and that provides different income stream for them. Now, first, they can sell the device. So it's a product sale. But they also have a subscription membership. So the person who bought it is a one-off payment. But when they go on a subscription, they will constantly be connected to a cardiologist on their network. So a person feeling they have some abnormal heartbeats, they can straight away do an ECG and upload it. Then the AI will screen it. And if it looks abnormal, then they will contact a cardiologist to contact the patients. So that's the subscription service which patient pays on an annual basis. And so they also work for healthcare professionals. So for example, we have a couple of machines, we can loan it to patients so they can use it. If they have some palpitations, their heartbeats become abnormal. And sometimes this kind of heartbeat may not be very constant. They may not have it every day. So for patients who get intermittent problem, then they may carry one of these with them and they can measure an ECG at any time when they feel discomfort. So they also work with pharmaceutical company. So they need data. So patients can monitor their heartbeat while they're on different medications. And this kind of big data collections can help to improve pharmaceutical company to improve their medicine, the regimen, how often they should take it, and whether there's different patients who are better off with different type of medication. So this collection of big data is very important. Then for the healthcare systems, so they aim by saving 80% of cardio death. It also helped the healthcare system to reduce its overall cost. Imagine a patient who have a heart attack. They will spend a few weeks in hospital for monitoring, for rehabilitations, and all of that potentially can save life as well. And then the payer, for example, the insurance company, the employers who buy the insurance, and the person, if one of their staff have a heart attack, it can impact on their work. It will also increase their premium on workers' benefit or medicals. So it's giving solutions for all parties. So if you can think of your product or service, not only on selling the products, what other income streams? Now, it may be a subscription connecting with an insurance company. So even sell it through an insurance company, through their policy holders. So someone who buys an insurance policy, you give them a free subscription. So there are different ways and work out, and it's important to consider which one is the most appropriate and where you start and how you start. We actually use this device in some of our community screening service. So in the last 12 months, we did 5 sessions for elderly community centers. We did over 4,000 elderlies, and we find about 5% of them have abnormal heart rhythms, and they will refer to see cardiologists or go to public hospitals. So all those, for people who have abnormal heartbeat, like atrial fibrillation, they have a 5 times risk for stroke. So this is a simple device. People just come in for 30 seconds measurement, and we'll be able to tell what kind of heart condition they have, whether they are normal. If they have some problem, we have early referral for them to see doctors. So this can be applied in a much larger scale. Imagine you're doing an ECG. Now people have to take their clothes off and 20 minutes off, and then have someone to read the ECG. It cannot do it in a large scale. So this can potentially transform the whole way how cardiovascular disease being managed and prevented. So think of something that's on scale, not just for some people, but potentially it can be for apply in a much simpler way, how to save costs, how to save life. So in summary, for you being a CEO, a founder for a company, what is the pain point that you want to solve? And what is your solution? Who are your customers? And how will you let them know about your product and services? Now, these are things that you need to think about constantly. Do I have a bigger market? And the process to go through all of this. The validation, the potential clinical trial, funding, scaling up, regulatory approval, professional approval, consumer approval. There are a lot of things I need to think as a founder. Okay, that's the end. Any questions, anything you want to share?
I've got a request to, I mean, people will get the video, so they'll be able to refer back to the slides. But there were some really, really good slides that I think the founder should just think about. Can you go back to, I think, slide 40? I wrote down a few. Yeah, so yeah, 40 and 41, but take this. You know, we talk so much about don't put too much text into a graph or too much, and just look at the pain point. One really short sentence and one sentence below it. Really concise, not a lot of words, very powerful, clear message. The old expression, less is more. A short, powerful, concise, whether it's a pain point or your solution, is so much more effective in getting the message across and capturing people's attention than trying to write an 8-sentence pain point where it just gets diluted. And if you go to the next page, 41, you see just another good example. Our solution. There's 2 sentences there. They go into more detail later, but I think this is a great example as you're preparing your set of slides for next Tuesday to look at this one case about how effective they are in communicating with a small amount of words, with a really concise but powerful message, illustrated by the pain point in our solution. And I think this is a really great example to think about when you're writing your own pitch deck. I've got a comment to make that there's pluses and minuses to everything. But when I look at some other industries and I look at the KOLs promoting that, and I'm thinking a month ago when there was a big fintech meeting in Europe, and one of the big payments associated big payments makers had a semi-retired football player being sort of the champion for their product, and we could see in the interview after he knew absolutely nothing about payments. And yet when I look at the health care, notwithstanding all the regulation you have to go through, it seems to be very objective. It seems to be getting opinions out by people who are very knowledgeable. I think that a lot of other industries could look at this, not necessarily copy it, but can they make their KOLs, their information communication sort of more professional than just having someone who's maybe a famous celebrity but knows absolutely nothing about their product. Pluses and minuses to everything, but I think that's the good side of the healthcare is that, there's rigor, there's substance, recommendations are being made by people and organizations who know what they're talking about. And that's not always the case in all industries.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Even for the KOL, some KOL, they would do it for nothing if your product really can save life. So I think that that's the beauty or difference. What healthcare industry is different to many other industry. It's not just for the money's sake, but there's a mission and vision needs to be very clearly defined. And for KOL who endorse or have the same visions, they are much willing to be an endorser.
I guess the other takeaway you highlighted is so many small companies will either get funding or some sort of partnership with a very large company. And I guess just given the inherent differences in bargaining power here illustrated by, the potential or the real infringement of the patent, that's a risk. So if you've got something really unique and someone's offering you a lot of money, that's tempting, but just, how do you make sure your IP doesn't get totally lost? There's a legal question. There's a lead on for Guy to just jump in.
Where's the legal question?
Protecting your IP. And, if you're partnering or getting investment, if you're a small company and you're partnering and getting investment from a really big company, how do you sort of protect your own IP and not have it disappear into that bigger partner?
Well, if we're talking about pharmaceuticals, it's all IP protected as far as I'm aware. I do more medical devices and med tech. And then where it's machines, it's not necessarily patented. Sometimes it is. I've got one New York Italian client. They're doing a particular device used in operations, surgical operations. But I'm working on one at the moment, which is private equity backed. It's Chinese, and it's pumps used in kidney dialysis. And I think that's fairly generic, but where they score is on the quality and on the approvals, which Francois was explaining about. So the other thing about a patent is, of course, it expires after 20 years. So if you can keep your technology secret without patenting it, sometimes the best strategy is not to patent it. But basically, the moral of the story is talk to proper intellectual property experts at the time you're considering it, and don't do it too late, because if you do want to patent and you've published your technology, then it's too late. And on the other side, I've got venture capital investment companies. I act for a couple of them. They like to see really good technology, and if the management team have been advised to patent, they want to see at least a patent application filed before they invest. They don't just like to invest in a management team with some slides.
Anyone else about anything from tonight's session? You will, of course, be getting a recording of this. Okay, well, if that is all, then thank you, Francois, for that.
John, just
yeah.
adding a final final point. Joe asked a question: how to get government endorsement on your service and product? The answer is the government won't give you any endorsement. They will either use you or not to use your product or service. Now, if you have all the certifications and with endorsement, for example, now when the government purchase the vaccines for COVID, for example, now they will need to have all the certifications, FDA approval, EMA approval before they will consider it. And then they will consider, they need to go through the vaccine committee by the government. If the vaccine committee endorses it, then the government will use it. So the government don't have a body themselves to approve any of these products. They were all done by professionals. And then the Department of Health, for example, will endorse, they will not endorse, they will accept the product or services. So that means you need to have a backup, enough backup before you go to government. Otherwise, you'll be wasting your time. Well, I think
Question
Joe
here.
got another question: how we improve the credibility of the app then? Well, you need to have it used by, well, or tested by some credibility bodies like a university, or for app is a little bit difficult because I think not many universities have done clinical trial on the app. So, but if it's endorsed by even some NGOs, some people use it in their body. So it's not just individual testimonies. A lot of the health products, for example, they be sold through direct marketing, through people's testimony. Now, those kind of endorsement is not enough. They need something to be published, to be recognized. So you need to have some data in order for example, for the university to accept to do a test with you. Otherwise, they will think is waste of their time. So your initial data is very important, and how to convince them to actually conduct even a small clinical trial with your app is what they need to consider. Yeah, thanks, Joe.
One new message. Okay. Last call for questions, not beer.